Hey, Allie, we're called the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, but we've never really dove into what has shaped our lives so that we have want to become healthy agers.
Yes, and there's so many different priorities that change in different phases in life. And so we thought it would be so fun to talk about our different decades up until where we are now and kind of where we're going, maybe.
And before we dive into that, let's give a shout out to our listener, Karen Harrow. Thank you for listening. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminsky. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Allie, I just love this idea of going kind of decade by decade in terms of what shaped our lives. Like, have you always been healthy?
This is one question that I get a lot, Shawna, and I'm sure that you've gotten it a lot since we do work in the fitness space. If we had nickels for every time somebody asks us, have you always been fit? Have you always been healthy? And I guess for me, the answer is pretty much. I've been interested in physical activity since the first decade of life. And that looked like starting out early on. I was a child that liked to play in the woods. I liked riding bike. I liked the trampoline. I liked anything that was active. I was interested in that first decade of life. What about you, Shawna?
Well, I think one thing is that, and we age ourselves here, in that when I was, under 10, and probably for you as well, kids were more active. We didn't have iPads and games in the palm of our hands, and we maybe had cable TV, but like choices were pretty limited, so there was less television. Even so, I was like you. I was super active, pretty much a tomboy, just always moving, very active. But I got involved in organized sports fairly early, like at 6. How about you?
I was not involved in organized sports. I was grew up in a small town, and my parents didn't that just wasn't something. My parents were not really into sports, so that was not something that I was really introduced to at a young age as an option. I did, and I don't know if it was below 10 at some point, maybe a little bit later. I did do gymnastics for a very brief time because we had someone come to town that taught that for a very brief time. And I mean, like maybe a couple of months. So, yeah, I did not get into that until the next decade when I got into organized sports. So that's really awesome that you got. Can you talk about what you got into first at you said age 6?
Yeah, but I think when I was 5, I decided I wanted to play baseball, and good Lord, thank goodness I didn't play baseball, because it turned out I was very visually impaired. I would have probably had been concussed, but I think it was because my brother played baseball. I decided I wanted to play baseball. So I tried out for a team, and then the coach told my mom and me, well, she's made the team, but she's too small for a uniform. And I'm just like, well, forget that. Why would I want to play baseball if I don't get the uniform? So baseball lost a potential concussion victim. So anyway, my parents weren't really sporty, but my mom asked me if I wanted to go into competitive swimming. So I went into competitive swimming, and I lived in Moose Jaw. And back then, when I was 6, I would take the bus 3 days a week downtown by myself, to and from. Like, okay, so this is really dating me. Like, who in their right mind? And my mother was a very responsible parent. It was just okay at that time. So yeah, I just started swimming at the age of 6, and I ended up competitive swimming for, I think, 12 years, up until I took a little bit of a break, and then I swam even in varsity. So that was a big part of my growing up because I was a competitive swimmer. But I also did all the school sports too. So that's kind of where my history has leaned towards. How about you? You did a little stint in gymnastics, and then what?
And I did gymnastics in the yard, and my mom she did some gymnastics because when she was in school, that was like part of PE. Gymnastics, that's something they did. And so she knew how to do a little bit of, cartwheel, teaching me some basics. And so I did just kind of played around the yard and taught myself or things that she taught me how to do some basic stuff. And I just picked up on things like that pretty quickly, even though I never took it very far and didn't go just because I had no formal training. So you can only go so far without real training. Mom was great to teach me a cartwheel and a back bend, but you're not going to be Mary Lou Retton without some major training.
Yeah. So then, did you do school sports?
Not until, so that would be the next decade. Yeah. So not until I was late middle school, I started playing basketball.
You, with the hopes of growing, Allie?
Of course, I knew I was going to be 6 foot eventually.
Yeah, you got that 6 foot personality, so why not?
Yeah, I was just scrappy. I was not going to be never going to be the tall girl on the court. But I figured out, and again, same kind of thing. I never really had, my parents were not the kids out there teaching me how to play sports. So I really was, it was whatever I learned from whoever, just from showing up. And at first when I started playing basketball, it was like running laps, passing the ball. It was and I did not, so we didn't have some great middle school basketball team with the best coaches or anything. So it was just, I enjoyed being active. And so basketball was one of those things that I decided for whatever reason. I have no idea what made me decide to join the school basketball team. But in late middle school, I did.
Well, I think the big thing is that you just had a love for movement, and it didn't matter. I played all the school sports, but I wasn't in fancy schools. I was in public school, and they were small. They were a community, but I just loved to move. So I was so active. I would swim in the morning from 5:30 till 7, go to a friend's for breakfast, go to volleyball practice, go to school, maybe go to volleyball practice, and then right to swimming from 5 to 7 at night. I never stopped moving. So whether it was volleyball, I didn't play basketball, but I did do gymnastics and field hockey and track. And I just never sat down as a kid. And that sounds and it doesn't matter. I didn't win. I don't think we won any city championships or anything, but man, was it fun.
Yeah. And that was my first introduction to weight training was through basketball because we had to eventually do weight training for basketball. So that was all new. I didn't know anything about weight training.
Yeah. And we did some dryland training in swimming. I would have been 10, 12. A lot of it was bands. And then as I progressed into varsity, then it was a little bit more resistance training. And then it was my second year of university. By then I had grown my hair. And I'm I cannot be in the pool 2 times a day and have long hair. I was just kind of past it. And at that point, I was really into skiing and freestyle skiing and weight training. So I kind of swapped in one thing for another because you can't be going 90 miles an hour with the kind of schedule you have as a competitive swimmer to then just go sitting on the couch. So I just kind of morphed it into something else. So as you realized, I am just going to be 5 feet tall. I'm probably not going to play in the women's professional basketball league. Did you just go into weight training more?
I played basketball through high school, and that was really the only. That was the only sport. There was not a lot of sports in where I grew up. And there may be more than what I knew. Just again, I didn't really have anybody to guide me or to that just wasn't available, easily available to me. Like it sounds like to me, you had a good bit of coaches throughout your life doing different things. I'm sure you had swimming coaches, you probably had volleyball coaches, probably had ski help somewhere.
Well, yes, I guess so. Like the coaches were just the teachers at the school.
Right.
And
Same. Yeah.
I owe them a debt of gratitude. I can't say that they were great, like coaches in terms of skills and like, because I didn't know any better. But what they instilled in me was leadership, sportsmanship, like all the variety of
being a part of a team.
Yes, teamwork. Like that was the benefit. And interestingly enough, like the concept of body image hit me really late. Like I think nowadays it hits a lot earlier because of social media. What are your thoughts on that?
It hit me, I feel like definitely in my, like after puberty, like in my early teens for sure. Because I also started weight training in high school. I played basketball and I started weight training with this guy in my hometown had a house, like an old house that he was a bodybuilder. He was a weightlifter. He was just into that. And so he started offering weightlifting classes at his old house. He didn't live there. It was just a workout place. And so, and even before that, from the gymnastics, the little bit that I did, to then playing basketball and learning a little bit about lifting weights, although we probably weren't doing half of it correctly, but we were doing stuff and we were doing some of it correctly. But I tended to put on muscle easily, and I was very aware of that in my teens. Like I was very, I felt different. I felt like my body was different than other girls. And so was definitely body conscious, and I was not comfortable in my own skin because of that, because I was different. I had more muscle tone. I didn't want to wear something. If I wore something sleeveless, they might say something about, look at your muscles, or, I won, like in school, I won the president's challenge kind of thing. Like I would beat the boys and girls in push-ups and all of that, like I just took to that. My body just responded well to strength training. And so I felt different.
And what about nutrition? Did that enter the picture at all as a kid?
No, not. I wish I could say that came when we get to some later decades. We can talk about that, but that was later. Definitely not. Fried fish sticks was one of my favorite things. Pizza, always been a fan favorite. Like cereal, I lived off of cereal, fried fish sticks, and pizza as much as I could.
Really?
And my parents both worked, and so, it was like what's easy kind of thing. I was a latchkey kid. I don't know if y'all had latchkey kids in Canada, but
yes, of course we do.
Yeah. So like sometimes it would be like when me and my sister got home, it might be something that she would make or something we could microwave or some cereal. Like my diet I grew up on a really carb heavy, junky, processed diet.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that quite as much. Nutrition didn't really enter the picture as much as I just need to eat and eat a lot. Just being as active as I am, I can just remember. I remember at one point, maybe I was about 12. One of my swim coaches was going to talk to my parents about fueling, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, is this going to be a diet? What's this going to be? And then everything on the list was just like high energy, almost low volume. And God bless that coach. He meant well. He just didn't want us to because we were so active, he didn't want us to run out of fuel. So and my mom, honestly, she was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years. She was the worst cook ever. She was a terrible, terrible cook. I remember actually even going on a swim trip, and one night we went for steak, and the server asked me, "How would you like your steak?" And I said, "Well, tough like Mom makes it." Like, I didn't know there was any other options. And again, God bless my mom. She's passed now, but she really was a terrible cook. So she did the best she could, and it was really a meat, potato, vegetable. I hated vegetables as a kid, but it was kind of forced upon me. I think I became more conscious about nutrition. I think maybe in grade 12. I think in grade 12 I became a little bit more body conscious, but I don't want to say I was a stick figure. I was just very boy-like, not curvy at all, fairly lean, just because I just always moved. And like you, we did all the fitness tests, and you and I are very competitive. So we just had to win all the things. That was just how it was for us, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I was just strong. Like, I was just naturally strong, and I got strong really easily when I did weight training. It's not like there were other girls in there that were strong, but I think that, I mean, and I don't say this to toot my own horn, but it was something that I was just exceptional at compared to others, naturally, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also it's your mindset, where other people would quit on the flexed arm hang. If someone else was hanging on there, you would have just stayed on.
Now this is true. I am,
right?
I'm competitive. I'll grant you that. Now, did you have any influences as far as, you talked about, the people that you had that were teachers that were also coaches, but influences outside of school or in school, or people that you looked up to that were active?
Not in my family. My family, no.
Or like athletes that you looked up to?
At the time, there were probably people in the pool that, but I feel like our worlds were a little bit smaller back then, because you didn't have access, or you didn't have eyes on even Olympians unless it was an Olympic year and you watched them on TV. So
Yeah.
I didn't have like these iconic figures that I
loved. Yeah, Mary Lou Retton was one of my,
Right.
she's a gymnast. So yeah, I was wondering if you had any of, yeah.
I didn't have anybody like that. And I mean, even if Mary Lou Retton was an iconic influence for you, you would have seen her at Olympics, or there might have been a special on TV. It's not like nowadays where you could go to her Instagram feed and watch her perfecting a trick, or have a special, or,
Yeah, I learned about her from the Olympics. For sure.
Yeah.
And then what about, TV shows was one of mine, and I'll talk about that, but what about you? Were there any magazines, TV shows, any kind of media, since we didn't have Instagram and TikTok, any kind of media that you took to or looked at or inspired you?
I feel like I lived under a rock now that we start talking about it, because
you were in the pool and at the volleyball court, so you didn't have time.
Well, that's part of it. We didn't buy magazines. I remember my friend might have a Tiger Beat, and I would see the Bay City Rollers or Leif Erikson on the cover, and that would be that. Some people ask me, do you have, what are some of your music tastes from back in the day? And it's like, I was in the pool 5 hours a day. When was I listening to music? I just don't, maybe my brain.
Yeah, that's what it was, Shawna. You were, most people, most of it, I know, I was never in any kind of sport 5 hours a day. So that took up a lot of your time that you were not. Yeah.
And it was all about performance, in terms of you were in the pool for fun, and I loved it. I mean, when I think about it, and it wasn't always 5 hours, it was between 3 and 5 hours a day. That's a lot for 12 years, almost 12. It wasn't that big of a commitment for 12 years, but for the majority of it, probably 8 of it, And I voluntarily, like, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning. Once we were moved to the city, we were in a small town in Saskatchewan when I took the bus in Moose Jaw. And then once we moved to Calgary, I would ride my bike to the pool. I would get up when it wasn't minus 30, if I could. I would volunteer. I would set my alarm, get up at 4:30, be in the pool by 5. I had a friend that lived across the street from the pool. She's still my friend, Lynn. She's now Lynn Marino. Went to her house for breakfast. Like, I was routine from the day I was 6.
Wow.
That's my personality.
Yeah.
But it also was a source of safety because my family life was very tumultuous. I won't get into that. I don't want to disrespect my parents that are long gone. They did the best they could with what they had. So I found safety and validation in sport.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were an early riser, it sounds like, from an early age.
I was probably, my brother and sister were not, but I was the kid that was like, it's 8:30, it's 9:00. Can I go to bed? Like,
yeah.
Ever since
not me, Shawna. I am not an early riser.
I know you're not.
You go, girl.
You text me or email me late, and I'm like, I'm getting up, and Allie's still texting me. So that has shaped me as an adult, like all those habits.
Yeah.
And I realize now that finding solace in something that was validating, like sport, how that saved me from creating my own drama in my teens and making better choices as I grew up, because I purposely surrounded myself with people that were focused on swimming faster or getting to provincials or getting to nationals. So that helped me kind of push away the noise and distraction of all the other things that were probably going on, like parties and things that I was oblivious to.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how did you do in the teen years when there's like kind of this healthy thing that you were pursuing, but then there's the distractions of alcohol and smoking and all those kinds of things?
Well, I had some influences, and I was not in the pool 5 hours a day, so I had time to look at magazines and watch TV. I was a latchkey kid, as I said. So when you're a latchkey kid, you come home and you watch TV till your parents get home. So I would watch, soap operas. Now, that's not where I got my fitness. But I would also watch Denise Austin, and I would watch Galad, Bodies by Galad, or I don't remember exactly, Bodies in Motion. And I would watch this show. There was a show that started coming on at some point when I was middle school or high school. I'm not sure exactly when. And it was a weight training. Like, they did strength training on the beach. They were on the beach doing these machines like leg extensions and leg curls. And they were like really fit, kind of muscular people. And there was a gal that was on that show named Kiana. And eventually she got her own show and did her own thing. But it was like I got to see women doing strength training and it being a beautiful thing, not like I felt like such a weirdo because my body was different than the other girls that I was around. So I got to see these women who were toned and strong, along with the guys, doing strength training. And that was a big influence on me. And then I got at some point a Shape magazine, probably found it at the grocery store. And then I would buy Shape magazines. I don't know, maybe I think one year for my birthday, I might have gotten a subscription to Shape magazine. And so every month I was looking at Shape and looking at the workouts and looking at the exercises and basically mimicking what they had in the magazine. And those were really, that was kind of my start to fitness knowledge. Was Shape magazine is where I got the foundational fitness knowledge.
And you know what? I think I was probably around maybe 20 or a little over 20 when I also was influenced by Shape. When I was a kid, magazines weren't a part of my growing up, but probably later in like closer to my 20s, Shape got on the radar. Also, I married my then husband, who I was married to for 25 years. He was very much into the gym scene. And so I really took to training with him.
Yeah, let's talk about the 20s. When we were in our 20s. It sounds like that. What year did you get married? How old were you?
I was 23 when I got married.
Okay, so you got married at 23.
Yeah. And
what else happened in the 20s that are things that really stand out?
We did some bodybuilding competitions I did in my 20s. My first one was actually when I was 23. And then I competed for about till I was maybe 30. But back then, in the Stone Ages, there was only bodybuilding. There was not all the figure. Figure was just kind of coming on the scene.
Yeah.
And drugs were, I don't want to say they were a big part of it, but they definitely influenced the sport. And the reason I left the sport was because I think it was my last competition that I was in, and I think I can't remember if I was second or third. You think you're going to remember all these things because at the time it's so important. But I was second or third at nationals, and they asked me to go to Worlds, and I said, well, why isn't the first or the second place person going to Worlds? And their response was, they're not going to pass the drug test, and you will, because I wasn't signing up for drugs. I did not want any part of that. So then my response was, if you want me to represent Canada, then you should be putting me first in the national competition. And I was just frustrated at that point. I was just like, I'm out. Because, and you've done it too. You work so hard, and then you are at the whim of somebody's subjective opinion. But I'll just say this before I ask you about it. I have no regrets about it because I learned so much about nutrition, about my body, how it responds, what real hunger is.
True story. Yeah.
Right. And you know what it's like to get ready to be on stage, and then to accept your body when you're not in competition shape.
Yes.
Because there's so many like bodybuilders, physique athletes that really have this huge weight swing. And I just didn't want to be one of those people. I did not want to, I'm a light person. I was a lightweight, which is 114 and a half pounds and under. I was always at the top of the weight class, which is still a very small person. I did not want to go up to 130, 140 pounds after a competition. So there's so much learning that you have when you put yourself into those situations. So when did you start with physique?
So I started with figure, and when I started doing figure, that was new. Like now they have bikini and all these other kind of things as well. But figure was pretty new, and I was in my 20s as well when I started competing. But I think I was more in my late 20s when I started. And earlier you asked about my diet, and that is when I changed my eating, was when I had to, because I was competing. Because I ate junk in college. So I got married around 21 probably. I went to college a year early. My birthday was also, I was already young for my class because of my birthday, because my birthday is August 23rd. And so I was already the youngest person in my class. And I also went to college a year early. So I ended up getting married. I think I was around 21 when I got married. I finished college. And I still had a horrid diet at that point. I was eating out all the time because I'm not a chef. I'm not a big cook. That has never been my thing. And so it was really, what can I get from somewhere else was what I ate, or something that was pre-made. And then I decided to start competing somewhere toward my late 20s. And I didn't, even though I'd gone to school for exercise science, unfortunately, they do not, the curriculum does not do a good job of teaching you about nutrition. And I would even say that the dietetics curriculum, as far as people I've seen that have come through that are dietitians, unfortunately, there's some gaps in the curriculum there as well as far as nutrition, but I certainly had gaps. So I thought I was one of the things I thought I knew
Yeah.
what was what until, and I decided to be my own coach when I started competing and do my own diet. But then I was looking at what were the magazines then, like, well, there was Natural Bodybuilding and Fitness. There was like Oxygen, some of those magazines. I would look in there to see what do competitors eat. And then there was also bodybuilding.com. I don't know if you remember bodybuilding.com, but people, it's like a forum. I don't even know if it still exists. But people would put supposedly their diets on bodybuilding.com. So I thought I was going to coach myself. And because I was clueless, was eating stuff like peanut butter and apple sandwiches, thinking I was going to get lean. Right. And I also was developing Crohn's. So this is kind of a big point in my 20s. In my 20s, one of the big shifts for me was a big metabolism shift early in my 20s. As soon as I started taking birth control for the first time, which was in my early 20s, I gained weight. And I was gaining weight rapidly. Like, I'm a small person. I got up to around 140. And yeah. And I'm like 5'1". So 5'1.5" if I stand up real tall. But that was the first time I had ever struggled. Like, what the heck is going on with my body? Like, I'm, still an active person, and I was even working in fitness. I'd gotten my degree in exercise science, but I was struggling with my weight. And then I was working at a hospital wellness center, and so I was getting we had medical people that worked in the hospital that would come and work out in the hospital wellness center. And so one of the OBGYNs, he brought us all birth control pills. All of us that worked at the fitness center, he would provide us with our birth control pills because he would get these samples, from different. So he would just he was like our supplier. So I was getting supplied, and then I ended up losing my job there, and I lost my supply of birth control. And so once I stopped, I stopped taking birth control, and it's like I went from, okay, I'm gaining weight, or I can't get this weight off, I'm really struggling with my weight, to I got sick. And when I stopped taking birth control, Crohn's symptoms started. And yes, I relate that to this because I know this happened at the same time. And so I started feeling really just bad, like nauseous, just not well. I even started losing weight, which on the one hand I was glad about, but on the other hand, I was like, okay, this doesn't feel good. Like, I don't feel well. And so that just started. So what I'll say is my life changed dramatically in my 20s, and life became more of a struggle, and it has been ever since for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the early 20s was a big turning point. But then I did, one of the things I did that also forced me to get into competing, because I was looking for some way to have something to focus on besides feeling bad, and to have something. I had no energy. I was just fatigued, completely fatigued all the time. And I was looking for something to push me, something to work towards, some kind of goal to have. And so I found out about, I guess through magazine, I don't even know how I found out about bodybuilding, but I ended up going to a show, and I sat in the audience, and I looked at my husband, and I said, I can do this. I can do this. I'm like, look at these girls up there. I can do this. And so, but I was really sickly, but that didn't stop me for whatever reason. I was also just very naive, apparently. And I was like, I can do this.
So do you think that was mentally, it probably helped you because it helped with motivation and gave you a goal? But physically, do you think that it was very hard on your body to?
Sure, but it was just very hard on my body to exist. So I can't say that it was just better in the sense of it gave me a push to also figure out what was wrong. Because after I got into competing, I was hooked, but I was too unwell to be competitive. And so that really pushed me to keep going to doctors to figure out what was wrong, because I wanted to compete. But as you said earlier, I'm competitive. I didn't want to just compete, Shawna. I wanted to win.
Yeah.
And I couldn't win in my current state of health. And so that was the big push that got me a diagnosis.
And I mean, as devastating as Crohn's is as a diagnosis, that has got to have been a relief to be, I know the answer. Now we can go from here. Terrible, but yet helpful.
Yeah, and I won my pro card being sickly, but I knew I wasn't going to be competitive at the next level. Like I could get by with my own diet plan out of whatever magazine or bodybuilding.com at the amateur level, but there was once you go to the next level, you can't get by with that crap.
And when did Dr. Joe, and I know he was on our podcast.
Yep.
Put his number in the podcast
show notes. Yeah. So yeah, go listen to Dr. Joe, because Dr. Joe, yes.
When did he enter the picture to really turn your nutrition around?
After my first pro show. I was next to last. I had no muscle tone. I was so sick. I looked like a skeleton. Like it was scary. Like I looked healthier at the amateur, but I had a bad bout of just sickness. And I take that back. No, it wasn't my first pro show. I did get better on my own, got to a better level. It was after my second pro show that I hired Dr. Joe. And I was mad because I got like fifth in my second pro. And it was a big class and it was a competitive show. But again, I knew, like you said, I'm competitive. I didn't want to be fifth. I didn't want to be next to last. I didn't want to be third. I wanted to be first. And so I knew I had to have some guidance on the nutrition was the part. I was fine on, well, let me say this. I also hired a trainer as well to do my workouts for me. So, but I was more,
you knew what to do in the gym more than you knew what to do in the kitchen.
Yes, I was definitely stronger in the gym than I was in the kitchen. Well, and that was really when my nutrition changed, when I hired Dr. Joe.
And it's a good reflection, whether you're getting ready to go on stage or just want to drop a dress size, that it's not about the working out. It's what you're putting in your body. That's what makes aesthetic changes more than, doing another workout.
And this is a lesson that with Dr. Joe that I learned maybe at that point, maybe earlier. I don't know when I really learned it, but it's just something I've taken with me throughout life. Like when you want to get good at something and you want to be the best, don't go hire just anybody. Like I found out, who are these people that are winning? Who are they working with?
Yeah. Well, so number one, having a coach buys speed. And then, because then you're not making the same, similar mistakes that take up precious time and energy. And again, this is so important, whether you're getting on stage or whether you're looking at general better health now. Like I've always had a coach. You've always, not always, but you turn to a coach when you want to do something better.
Absolutely.
And you don't need a coach forever, but having some guidance.
Even in middle school when I started playing basketball, even though that was not like some super duper coach, the coaches I had, they were still I still got way further with their guidance than I would have on my own. And I also hired a personal trainer to do my fitness workouts through Dr. Joe as well. So it was one of his people that specifically trained competitors.
So let's close up this chapter. Yeah. When did your competitive figure career come to an end?
Because of Crohn's, it came to an end first in 2009. I think I did in 2008, I did like 4 shows, which is a lot. If you've done shows, it's a lot in a year. And then I did one in 2009. I don't remember. Or maybe that was the last. Anyway, I stopped from 2009. I think 2008, I did those 4 shows and that was it. And then I came back and did 1 show in 2014.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in the sport, like I was long out, because I think my last sport, my last time would have been in the early 90s. And then my daughter first was born in 94 and my son in 97. So, then that's a whole nother chapter that let's get into in the next episode. But you are 13 years younger than me. So there's obviously that time gap in there. But there is a lot of influences for us in our younger years. It's fun to talk about because I feel so fortunate that I was drawn to sport at a young age because it helped me develop habits that some people are struggling to implement in their 40s, 50s, 70s. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, even playing basketball, it was, you have to go to practice. And if you don't go to practice, you don't get to play. And, there was that discipline that you learn from that. And also because we were some people just are not interested in athletics.
Yeah.
And so they don't have that same drive towards it. That maybe you and I did. I taught a couple of my friends at different points into playing basketball, but they just didn't have the same, interest. So if you don't have an interest for it, I think that's also you have to have a why, you have to have a want to. And we both had some kind of motivation that we wanted to do that. We wanted to participate.
Yeah. And it helped it not knowing that in our 40s, 50s, now my 60s, that choice I made back then was going to help me in my later years. Alli, if you had a wish for our listeners today, what would it be?
Definitely get a coach if you want to learn something new or do something new or get to a higher level in a certain skill. Get a good coach that has walked that walk before. What about you, Shawna?
And that skill could be like an athletic endeavor. It could be with nutrition. It could be with anything.
Yeah, it could be learning to sew. I mean, whatever it is you want to do, right? Yeah, learning to cook. Like I definitely will have to have a coach if I'm going to learn to cook.
And my wish today is that people would find a why to move themselves into a healthier lifestyle. For you and I, Alli, maybe it was a little bit easier because we had that inherent why in us. And for those people that aren't competitive or sporty or that's not their go-to, that they still find a why so that they can implement some healthy habits. That because whether you started those healthy habits when you were 6 or when you're in your 60s, they still count. So it's important to have those healthy habits, but it's hard to implement them without the why. So find the why and the habits will follow.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Curve Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminsky. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback. If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.